Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, breaking news, a U.S. official confirming to ABC News 700 Marines now on their way to Los Angeles. In the Northeast tonight, storms moving in, severe storm threat all the way to the south, 50 million Americans. The small plane crash off the U.S. right into the ocean. The first tonight racing in Los Angeles after clashes between police and anti-ICE protesters. President Trump tonight ordering those 700 Marines to assist the National Guard in L.A. Some protesters setting cars on fire, attacking police cruisers, police firing bullets. A reporter delivering her report then struck by an officer's rubber bullet. And tonight, what's now happened after President Trump, when asked about the idea of arresting California's Governor Gavin Newsom, answering it would be a great thing. Matt Gupton, one-on-one with border czar Tom Homan tonight. Also tonight, the Northeast bracing for storms, severe weather, New York all the way down to Texas. More than 50 million Americans on alert. Ginger Z standing by with the forecast. That plane crashed off the U.S. coast, all 6 on board feared dead. The pilot's final transmission crashing into the ocean off San Diego. And the other disaster, a skydiving plane going down with 21 people on board. The news coming in tonight in the hunt for that fugitive father, a veteran considered dangerous. Tonight, federal authorities now taking over the search after he allegedly took the lives of his 3 young daughters, where the feds are right now. Tonight, Arthur Raddatz in Ukraine, just as Russia launches its largest attack since the start of the war. Nearly 500 drones and missiles. And President Zelensky telling Martha that 20,000 U.S. anti-drone missiles promised to Ukraine have now been sent to the Middle East. ABC News tonight asking the Pentagon. Back here in the U.S., a major court victory tonight for actress Blake Lively. Tonight, a federal judge throwing out after Justin Baldoni's $400 million defamation suit against her after she accused him of sexual harassment. The Harvey Weinstein jury deliberations tonight, and the eye-opening note right here. A foreperson notifying the judge, I need to talk to you about a situation that isn't very good. The remarkable rescue, look at this, a pet zebra here in the U.S. airlifted to safety. And tonight here we celebrate the music of Sly Stone, remembering the singer, the leader of Sly and the Family Stone. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Disturbance on the ground. We want to get to Bill Malugin. He's live on the ground. He's been there all day with the very latest on this. Bill, what are you seeing?
Well, Trace, we've been following around that convoy of anti-ICE protesters. It ended up coming here to Pershing Square in downtown LA. Unfortunately, it's hard for us to keep up with it because they're all in vehicles. Tommy will pan down the street real quick. They're driving away from us right now. Again, you see them waving the Palestinian flag, the Mexican flag. Some of these, some are still on foot in front of us. Oh, you got a guy doing donuts in the street here. He's going to crash. Not smart at all. That is not going to end well. So you get a sense of what's going on down here in the streets here, Trace. We have not seen any LAPD whatsoever. These protesters have been going through the streets. A big chunk of them ended up here at Pershing Square. Some of them are driving off. Others of them are on foot now, and you just saw this guy. And now they're giving us a hang loose sign to our cameras after they just did a bunch of donuts, which is never a good idea. We've seen a lot of people get hurt through those. And now someone else thinks it's a great idea, so they're going to copy them. Look at this. We get a lot of these in LA. They're called street takeovers, and you can always find where they're at because you see all the tire skid marks in the intersections. But it's kind of cringe watching it because you're just waiting for them to spin out of control and hit somebody, and you hope it doesn't happen. But that guy saw the first guy do it, and he wanted to take part too. So that's the vibe down here right now, Trace. Again, no LAPD anywhere from what we can see. They had a helicopter over us earlier. That helicopter is gone, and this convoy is still coming through here. You still see trucks with mostly Mexican flags coming through here. Most of the, all right, we're getting more burnouts, a bit more donuts down there. You can see smoke at the intersection. So you were mentioning it, Trace, as the sun goes down, things usually start getting a little more sketchy, and I would certainly say we're heading in that direction tonight. Now we got someone else doing donuts. Let's go out into the street for a second here and see what we can see. Yeah, he drove off. So you have a bunch of people on foot now, a lot of them holding up signs, anti-ICE signs, F-ICE, abolish ICE, that sort of a thing. But again, this was a huge convoy. convoy of several hundred, Trace, and we never saw LAPD show up once, so they must be stretched really thin.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Tonight, breaking news, the Trump administration ordering hundreds of Marines to Los Angeles. The rare move to send the military into an American city as new rallies take to the streets. It comes after a weekend of protest opposing immigration raids that turned violent in some places. Waymo cars set ablaze. National Guard deploying crowd control techniques using less lethal bullets. Now, California suing over President Trump federalizing the National Guard as the president floats having Governor Gavin Newsom arrested. Our team takes you on the ground as the community pushes back over raids. Also tonight, the deadly shootings on the Las Vegas Strip near the iconic Bellagio Hotel. The shooting caught on camera, and now the suspect under arrest. Plus,
he's definitely very much around 90% of the time. But then there's that other 10% of the time he was not.
the daughter and ex-wife of accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann speaking out. Their first sit-down interview will show you the Peacock exclusive. Man on the runway that chased at one of the busiest tarmacs on the planet. Up in the air, the zebra finally caught after days evading authorities, what his owners are telling us.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yonkers.
On this Monday night, military money. Canada's bold pledge to hit NATO spending targets sooner.
If we want a more reliable world, we need a stronger Canada.
The government's plan to cough up the cash and rely less on the U.S. Angry protests in Los Angeles over immigration raids.
They're bad people.
The battle brewing between President Trump and California officials. The Competition Bureau delivers a lawsuit to DoorDash. Why the company is accused of misleading customers. Plus, an extraordinary Nova Scotia teenager's fighting spirit and advocacy.
People with disabilities are contributors to society. We are just regular people.
One recipient of this year's prestigious Terry Fox Humanitarian Award. Good evening and thanks for joining us. The Prime Minister is promising the biggest increase in Canada's defence spending in decades, calling the world dangerous and divided. Mark Carney now says Canada will reach the NATO target of 2% of GDP spent on defence by the end of this year, and will do it by reducing our dependence on the US.
As the world grows,
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Hello and a very warm welcome. If you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the headlines. Sending in the Marines and more National Guard troops. Donald Trump goes against calls from state officials in California as protests against his crackdown on immigration continue. The 12-member crew of the Freedom Flotilla being sent home. The organisers of the humanitarian mission say their arrests were illegal as they took place in international waters. The ship had been trying to reach Gaza, where 2 million Palestinians are at risk of famine due to an Israeli blockade. And Russia and Ukraine go ahead with a prisoner swap, but still no step towards any form of peace between them. Kyiv saying that overnight it was hit by the heavy barrage of drone strikes in the war so far.
Hello, good morning everyone. It's 6 o'clock on today's show. Going nuclear, the government gives a go-ahead to a new power station at Sizewell C. Plus, what would happen if Russia attacked? Sky News assembled a cast of former ministers, military and security chiefs to help us find out. It's Tuesday the 10th of June. The government commits more than £14 billion to a new nuclear power station on the Suffolk coast ahead of tomorrow's spending review. US President Donald Trump sends the Marines into Los Angeles after days of protest. Bringing the reality of a threat to life, new podcast from Sky News simulates a Russian attack on the UK.
The best outcome is that this is just a show of force. The worst outcome is this is setting a force in order to attack the UK.
It's a family affair. It's a family affair.
Funk legend Sly Stone dies at the age of 82. And heartbreak for Wales, who suffer their first defeat under Craig Bellamy despite a famous comeback away to Belgium. months, so 15 years after it was first proposed, the government has given the go-ahead to a new nuclear power station at Sizewell C on the Suffolk coast. The Energy Secretary Ed Miliband said that the investment of more than £14 billion will bring in a new golden age of nuclear, but campaigners say it's HS2 all over again, with construction expected to take at least a decade, and it's still not clear how it will be funded.
Evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Amna Nawaz is away. On the NewsHour tonight, California sues the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard as protests against immigration raids turn violent. A look at how the Trump administration is filling critical roles with people with alleged extremist ties. The message is that loyalty trumps expertise. Loyalty trumps serious policy. It trumps national security. And Broadway celebrates a banner year for theater at its annual Tony Awards.
Good morning. The biggest U-turn of this government yet as the Chancellor reverses her controversial winter fuel cuts.
Today I can announce that this winter 9 million pensioners will now receive the winter fuel payment.
All pensioners earning under £35,000 a year will receive those payments from the winter.
But a big question this morning, who's going to foot the £1.25 billion bill?
Civil unrest continues in Los Angeles. Donald Trump sends 2,000 more National Guards to the front line as he hits out at California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Incompetent governor, look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states, and if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, we would bring more in if we needed it.
Greta goes home. Greta Thunberg and her fellow activists arrive at Ben Gurion Airport in Israel ahead of being deported.
King Charles visits Lancaster Castle, but not everyone is that welcoming.
Outside, a small number of protesters from Republic, which campaigns for an elected head of state. This is heard.
Irish farmers will descend on Stormont.
That Minister Moore's policies on phosphate are going to devastate the industry, and it is Northern Ireland's biggest income.
Are we lazy at learning foreign languages? That's our debate this morning after authorities in Venice ban merchants from speaking English. We're debating that in just 20 minutes.
And it's this morning, will Wales come back for 3 down against Belgium to get to 3-3, but then eventually lose 4-3 in a thriller in Brussels. International friendlies tonight. England play Senegal in Nottingham as Northern Ireland play England. France is on the verge of becoming first manager. A brighter day in the north today. Double day parts of over the next few days. For all of us, the temperature and the humidity will be rising. Join me later for a full forecast. Just
And this is GB News Breakfast.
This is Asia Now.
Hello, it's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong. 11 New Delhi. One butter. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has urged his South Korean counterpart in a call that both nations should respect each other's core interests and concerns. Focus as China talks stretch into a second day in London. Washington upbeat about discussions so far, while Beijing has yet to comment. And protests against U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration policies have erupted in 2 major Texas cities following major demonstrations in Los Angeles. Live from Berlin, you're watching DW News. U.S. President Donald Trump deploys an additional 2 rates. Police order people to disperse during the 4th day of unrest. Trump has now also ordered 700 Marines to LA. Also ahead on our show, Russia and Ukraine report intense border drone missile strikes just hours after their Ukraine.
We work together and we're proud of this project.
It's a wrap. Berlin celebrates 30 years since artists transformed Germany's parliament building into a public work of art. Wrapping up the Reichstag.
says he's spoken with the 9 journalists shot with a rubber bullet in Los Angeles and raised the incident with the Trump administration.
That footage was horrific. She was clearly identified. There's no ambiguity.
Tensions in LA remain high. The Pentagon sends in Marines to help the National Guard respond to immigration protests. Tasmania rushes the budget bill through Parliament ahead of an expected Germany and reaches an internal investigation after a second ever mix-up. Hello and welcome to AB News. President Anthony Albanese says the government has raised its concerns with the US administration after an Australian journalist was hit with a rubber bullet. Channel 9 correspondent Lauren Tomasi was reporting on the demonstrations in Los Angeles when an officer hit with a rubber bullet. Just a few minutes. We're scared.
Peace Report, I'm Amy Goodman. In defiance of local officials, President Trump has deployed the California National Guard to Los Angeles after protests erupted in response to ICE conducting military-style raids in and around the city. This marks the first time since the 1960s a president has deployed the National Guard without a governor's request. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has also placed on high alert 500 Marines at Camp. White House advisor Stephen Miller described the ICE protests as an insurrection. On Sunday, Trump warned this could be just the beginning of deploying troops on U.S. streets.
We're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart.
Earlier today, Trump wrote on social media, looking really bad in L.A., bring in the troops, unquote. California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to sue the Trump administration today. He wrote, quote, commandeering a state's National Guard without consulting the governor of that state is illegal and immoral, unquote. On Sunday, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass decried the ICE raids and the Trump administration response.
What we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying...
Africa News. The news. A Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier Heili Fang was due to hold talks with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer at a UK government building Monday. The talks, which are expected to last at least a day, follow negotiations in Geneva last month that brought a temporary respite in the trade war. The two countries announced May 12th they had agreed to a 90-day suspension of most of the 100% plus tariffs they had imposed on each other in an escalating trade war that had sparked fears of recession. The US and China are the world's biggest and second biggest economies, respectively. Chinese trade data shows that exports to the US fell 35% in May from a year earlier.
As US President Donald Trump's new travel ban goes into effect on Monday, Haiti is one of the 12 countries left reeling from its impact. It's overrun by gangs and relies heavily on international aid organizations amid its humanitarian and security crisis. Haiti will likely be hard hit by the ban, which effectively cuts a lifeline for families and businesses.
Haiti is not in the best shape as it was before. In the beginning, we were a country of freedom, liberty, just one of the most beautiful countries, and now it's just all being corrupted of lack of representation, lack of government. There's a lot of just kidnapping, killings. It's just really bad right now, and I feel like people needing to escape to have the chance to live life, literally. And so, as I stated before, it just sucks that they are being denied that access. And I know there is a God, and I know God is still working, and so hopefully I pray that there will be a change pretty soon. But God works on his own timing, so, but yeah.
She says many Haitians are just hoping to escape violence and unrest in their country. But in Haiti over the weekend, there did not seem to be a significant rush to travel to the United States. At the only functioning airport, passengers boarding planes to the US were hesitant to speak to the media because of fears of possible retaliation upon their arrival. Tensions in Los Angeles have intensified after US President Donald Trump called in the National Guard to help quell a third day of protests over his immigration crackdown. Thousands of people took to the streets of the city on Sunday, blocking off a major highway and setting cars on fire in response to the extraordinary deployment. Law enforcement officers used tear gas, rubber bullets and flashbangs to control the crowds, many of whom had dispersed by the evening. The state's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom described the presence of the troops as unlawful and accused Trump of violating California's sovereignty. It's the first time a president has called in the National Guard without a state's request or consent in decades. Newsom said he would sue the Trump administration over the move. Sunday was the most intense day of demonstrations, with police arresting around 27 people.
The Egyptians signed an RFC touchdown in Miami, Florida, ahead of the highly anticipated FIFA Club World Cup 2025. As one of 4 African teams competing in the prestigious tournament, they are gearing up for a showdown on the global stage in the USA. That tournament has also attracted big names like Lionel Messi.
I don't think it's possible to get prepared to play against Messi. You just have to try to be disciplined on the day. There's going to be, situations that we need to control better than then, even before the ball is arriving to him. But once the ball is with him, it's gonna be as usually a player that's gonna have special attention. But I think that he's used to be under special attention during his whole career. It's a good collective, it's a good team, a good coach. So yeah, we're gonna be ready.
This is thrilling matchup in the horizon. Al Ahly is ready to make their mark on world football. Certainly, we've long been aware of Miami's reputation, one of the most beautiful cities in the United States, and we're truly honored to be here, especially with the privilege of playing the opening match. The entire squad is fully prepared for the tournament, and we've come with this determination to achieve something extraordinary for our nation, to bring joy to our people and support us. That's precisely why we are both ready and thrilled to be competing here. Trophy as the Group A, Al will face off against 2021 CONMEBOL Copa Libertadores champion AC Palmeiras, European powerhouse FC Porto, and the team of the moment, Lionel Messi, Inter Miami FC.
With Casablanca putting the finishing touches to their preparations ahead of the inaugural version of the expanded FIFA Club World Cup in the United States, the Moroccan Giants, who qualified for the tournament by winning the CAF Champions League in 2022, have been drawn in Group G along with Manchester City of the English Premier League, UAE's Al Ain, and Juventus of Italy. Coming to the tournament on the back of 2 narrow defeats to Spanish side Sevilla and FC Porto of Portugal in club friendlies. But they beat second-tier Stade Marocain 2-1 in the last 16 of Morocco's Excellence Cup.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.